Hey, how's it going? So, it's application deadline season for many high school seniors applying for colleges, and there's been a lot of discussion about local kids opting to stay in Hawaii rather than to go to the mainland. And with all of the things going on, I get it, right? It's easier to stay in Hawaii and maybe it's safer here. It's definitely gonna be cheaper with in-state tuition and you might get more time with your friends and family. But I say, go for it. Go to college on the mainland if you can. For me, choosing to attend college on the mainland as a public school kid was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. And of course, I was scared. At the time, I'd only been to the mainland twice for a couple of family trips, and I knew absolutely no one in the state of Colorado, so I had no friends going into it. I kind of knew what I wanted to major in, but I still wasn't really sure. And I knew it was going to be expensive to go, but I did it anyway. So in this video, I want to talk about why I left Hawaii to go to college on the mainland, some of the things I was thinking about back then, and then some just general advice for those Hawaii kids thinking about applying for colleges. And maybe this video is only meant for a small audience, and I'm okay with that. In 2018, about 3,900 local kids opted to go to the mainland for college as first-time undergraduates. So there are at least some kids choosing to leave, and I'm sure that there's gonna be more thinking about it in the future. So when I left Hawaii and moved to Colorado for college, one of the first things that people there would ask me after I introduced myself was, why would you leave Hawaii to come here? And maybe you can relate to being asked that question if you're a former Hawaii resident or Kama'aina away for college. I think people not from Hawaii have a hard time understanding why anyone would leave. I would then go on to explain that of course Hawaii was great and wonderful, but it just didn't have everything. Trying my best not to totally destroy their romantic, dream-like perception of Hawaii. So I had two primary reasons why I wanted to leave Hawaii for college. The first was I wanted to experience more than what was here in Hawaii, particularly on the island of Oahu. I just thought that this couldn't have been all there was to life, and the only way that I'd ever find out is if I went away. There's nothing wrong with going to the beach and going to the mall and going to eat at Zippy's, but there just had to have been more to life than that. And I wanted to see things like snow. I wanted to drive to another state. I wanted to see animals like squirrels and foxes and raccoons. And a guy can only take so much mongoose and minor birds. The second reason was I wanted to see if I could actually make it on my own. By going away to college on the mainland, I wanted to see if I was tough enough to make it away from my friends and family and figure things out on my own. I knew that I had the love and support from my family, so there was always like this sense of safety there if I ever messed up. But I thought if I could make it on my own without them, it would be a really big accomplishment. And basically, it would make me grow up. So if you're a local kid from Hawaii applying for colleges, I just want to share 3 pieces of advice for you from just another local kid who really had a great time on the mainland. So first, this should probably go without saying, but just apply for some colleges anyway, because you might change your mind in 6 months and want options. Trust me, you don't want to be that one friend that has nothing to do come August when everyone is at least taking some classes. I'm sorry, but your high school isn't going to let you back on campus unless you want to be that weird guy in the parking lot cruising after school. So apply to UH and some community colleges, but also try to apply to a few colleges on the mainland. I know that the applications may be hard to fill out. You're gonna need to get letters of recommendation, and if you're like me, you didn't even know your social security number and other basic information about your parents, but just ask for help and get it. And also don't feel like you have to apply to the big expensive schools like USC, UCLA, Oregon, or an Ivy League school. There are a lot of mid-size and small universities that can offer a great college experience for local kids. What I liked about the University of Northern Colorado was that it wasn't that big. It had about 10,000 undergrads, and the city was about the same size as the city of where I grew up in Hawaii. And if you think you can't go right now, think about transferring to the mainland for a year in the future. One of my classmates from high school actually did that. And I remember I was at Aloha Stadium for the Hawaii Bowl one year, and he walked up to me in the parking lot and he asked me about Colorado. And so I told him about it, and I told him, to ever give me a call if he decided to transfer. And then I think it was the following year, I found out that he actually decided to come up to Colorado for the year, and we became really great friends. And I'm really proud of him for having the courage to embrace that opportunity. Okay, so there's a lot of things to be afraid of when it comes to college on the mainland. The first one, of course, is the cost. College costs money, and student debt is really tough to pay off. Trust me, it took me a while to do it, but it feels great once you do it. But there are scholarships and work-study opportunities. Work during the summer and just pay off the student loans as fast as you can after you graduate. I think it's well worth the experience as long as you graduate in 4 years. I think the second fear is the culture shock. Yeah, you're probably gonna feel weird because you're gonna be the one standing out in the classroom, but that's okay. You're there to learn and see new things and interact with people who are different from you. And yes, you're probably gonna get homesick. I can tell you, in all of my years on the mainland, I only got homesick once, and that was within the first 3 days that I actually arrived in Colorado. So I remember I was sitting in Subway with my mom eating lunch and telling her that I felt scared and that I wanted to go home. And I actually meant it. After all that we had gone through to get me settled in the dorm, I just wanted to pack it all up and leave. Then she stopped eating, turned to me and told me no, and that was pretty much it. And I'm glad that I stayed. So stick with it, you'll eventually enjoy it. And the third thing is about your major and what you want to do with your life. And you don't have to know it all, especially when it comes to your major. There's so much pressure to have to know what you want to do before entering college. And most people change their major several times. I started out as an education major because I want to be a teacher. And then I decided that I want to be a writer, so I changed my major to English. Then I discovered that English majors don't really write things that I wanted to write about. They mostly just read old stuff and wrote about that. So I changed to a journalism major. And then I got kind of bored, so I added a minor in sports and exercise science. And then I realized that a lot of my classes seem to overlap with the other English majors, so I re-added English as my second major. And of course, I graduated within 4 years. And let me say that I couldn't have planned that journey, but that was part of the fun of it. You'll find that living away from everyone in Hawaii will change you. It will force you to grow up, and trust me, that's a good thing. Maybe it's just me, but you may get to the point where you come back to Hawaii and it's like everything is the same, yet you've changed. And you don't know quite why you are seeing things differently, but you do. Your high school friends are still doing the same things that they were doing. Your cousins and aunties and uncles are just going about their lives. Time seems to have stood still here in Hawaii, yet your view on life has changed, and it's kind of like you just moved on. And I think that's totally normal. That's part of growing as a person. The person I was when I graduated from McKinley is different than the person I was when I graduated from UNC. And now that I'm back in Hawaii and living here, I'm just really thankful to have been able to have all those wonderful experiences on the mainland, because it gave me the opportunity to reflect on Hawaii a lot and appreciate what makes Hawaii such a special place to live in. So why college on the mainland? Because I think we need future generations to do better here. Hawaii is going to be counting on you, and I think by doing better, that means having a broader perspective of the world that you just can't really understand through a phone screen. You have to actually go out there and experience it. And by no means am I saying that the University of Hawaii or any of the other local universities are not viable options. They're all great higher education institutions in their own right. But the mainland is so great in so many different ways. So thanks for watching, and aloha.